In every haunted hotel, there's a room they pretend doesn't exist. A room that isn't rented, only relived. And once you hear her cry, she knows you heard her, and she will follow. This is Whispers in the Dark. Episode 2, The Wailer in Room 313. Marcus was in town for a tech conference. Long hours, cold coffee, terrible networking. He booked a cheap hotel, the Sycamore Inn. Just off I-87, it looked old, smelled older, and felt wrong. He went to the front desk to check in and receive his room key. Some say room 313 is cursed, but that's just a story. Superstition, the clerk said with a shrug. Marcus didn't care. He just wanted to sleep. Room 313. Flickering overhead light, frigid air, no heating. The bed was still made, but the bathroom mirror was fogged, as if someone had just stepped out of a hot shower. Then, he heard a faint sound of a woman crying. She sounded muffled, broken. He knocked on the wall. The crying stopped. He called the front desk.
Sir, there's nobody in 311 or 315. You're probably just imagining things. You should try to get some sleep.
You're probably right. It's been a long day and I am sleep deprived. Thanks anyway, said Marcus. He hung up the phone and turned off the light. He did some research about the suicide that happened before drifting off. He found an old blog from 2013. Her name was Elena Cross, a 19-year-old college student, theater major. She stayed at the Sycamore Inn to rest up before auditions. Her boyfriend was supposed to accompany her, but he never showed. She was last seen sobbing into her phone, whispering,
"Why won't you pick up? You said you'd come."
Her sobs could be heard even in the hallway, sounding distraught and broken. That night, she slit her wrists in room 313. When she was found, her body was laying in a pool of blood, and her face laced with tears. The TV was on, but it was nothing but static. They say that even till this day, you can still hear crying coming from that room. As Marcus started to drift off, he suddenly heard static coming from the TV. And then a woman appeared. Her eyes were black. Her hair clung to her face like seaweed. She was crying, then smiling. A smile too wide, too wrong. He unplugged the TV. It stayed on. She moved. Closer. Marcus backed up, and then something brushed his foot. A wet strand of hair. But the floor was dry until he looked down. Blood falling from the ceiling. He looked up, but there was no leak. Just a message scrawled in wet letters across the drywall. "You finally came." The girl climbed through the TV, head first, bleeding eyes. She stood in front of Marcus, smiled and said,
"You came. I knew you wouldn't abandon me."
As she approached, Marcus bolted. As he ran down the hall, he heard her crying again.
"You said you'd come. Why did you abandon me?"
Marcus just kept running, which seemed like forever. The hall kept looping, bringing him back to room 313. The door opened by itself. The girl grabbed him and dragged him back into the room.
No!
He was trapped. The girl, thinking that Marcus was her boyfriend, tried to drag him into the TV with her so that they would always be together. Marcus was kicking and screaming, trying to get away from the girl, just when all hope was lost. Day finally broke. The crying finally stopped, and he was no longer being dragged. He stared at the TV that was now turned off. Marcus quickly packed up his things and left the room in a haste. He stumbled to the lobby, pale, shaking. He inquired the manager about what happened last night and requested a refund. The manager inspected the room, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Marcus was furious and scared out of his mind. "Never put anyone inside room 313 again. That room shouldn't even exist," he yelled as he bolted out of the hotel and sped off towards the highway to get as far away from the Sycamore Inn as possible. Later that night at the Sycamore Inn, inside room 313, the TV turned on and a girl was there, crying. You've been listening to Whispers in the Dark, and if you ever wake up to crying through the wall, don't knock, don't ask, just leave, because some rooms aren't meant for the living.